Okay, so how's it going? You good? I'm good. I had a great workout. I've been trying to lift heavier and heavier, really focusing on squats. And we have these orange plates, and the orange plates are 45s. And so I added those to the bar 2 weeks ago and tried out a couple of sets and was successful, which is very exciting because I've been working up to that. My goal is to be able to squat my body weight at some point in time. So I'm close. Today I did one set at 135, which is not my body weight, by the way. And then went on to the second set, and then I failed on the 5th rep. Oh my gosh, that was so scary. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. So I had to execute some pretty horrible form to get up out of it. But it happens, I suppose. All about them gains, baby. All about them gains. You got to do what you got to do to get there. But I wanted to talk about going back to basics today because I have returned to some of the basics. I have been really focused on trying to improve some of my mobility. Mobility is one of these things that we need desperately, and we don't necessarily miss it until we don't have it anymore. And my hips have they're just tight. My hips are very, very tight. I feel pain on a pretty regular basis in my hips. I don't know if that's just from being sore all the time from working out or what, but I have really started doing a lot of research on how to improve your hip mobility, because flexibility and hip mobility, along with strength, it's really important for women, especially to do weight-bearing activity, because it helps strengthen your bones. And as we get older, that's the kind of stuff that you want your bones to be as strong as possible to help fight the effects of aging. So strength training, flexibility, hip mobility, these are all the things, or just mobility of every area of your body. But these are the things that help keep you from getting injured as you get older. And I will tell you, across the board, 9 times out of 10, when somebody has hurt themselves, it is not because they did some fancy, there's really not a cool story behind it. It's usually either they did something really dumb, or they just stood up the wrong way, or they fell down, or something like that. So these things are really important, but I have really tried to get back to the basics. I'm still trying to lift as heavy as I can, as often as possible, but I'm also using some time divided so that I can work on that flexibility and hip mobility especially. Because if you have back pain, usually that is referred pain. Unless there is some type of injury, most of the time you can have referred pain from different areas of your body. A lot of that can come from, tight hips, your hip flexors. You've got this thing called a psoas. Just tightness in there can impede your ability to just function and move the way that you are used to moving. So sometimes spending a little bit of time on that. That's why it's really important to stretch, which I'm doing a better job of making sure that I'm stretching all throughout the week. But sadly, I do not spend as much time as I should. I'm also spending more time on foam rolling, so I'm just trying to keep these muscles as healthy and happy as I can. So those are some of the things that I'm doing. I also want to talk about, I've talked about the rest pause before, and my friend Melanie reminded me of something, because I was kind of down on myself. I had to push a pause button on my diet. And I use the term diet. I hate the term diet, because usually when you say diet, people think short term. They think, trendy, fad diets, things like that. But when I talk about diet, I talk about making sure that you're eating the right foods, you're eating enough of the right foods, that the food that you eat is fueling your body in the way that you need it, either to promote fat loss or muscle building or just for good health. So please, whenever I say diet, y'all hear nutrition, okay? So I was kind of down on myself because I just got to a point where I just felt like I cannot spend all this time tracking all the stuff. And not that I'm spending all this time tracking, but it just making sure that I'm, stressing myself out that I'm getting enough protein and I'm getting, my carbs are not too high and they're not too low, and then I'm getting quality fats. And so I just kind of pushed a pause button in my mind about plugging all that stuff into MyFitnessPal. And, I still prep meals, but I wasn't preparing, 5 different lunches and 5 different dinners. And I'm a big fan of prepping because I think that it is so helpful as far as making sure that you stay on track. But sometimes I feel like if you've been doing that for long enough and you know the foods that you should eat, sometimes you just kind of have to take a step back and just eat the foods that your body is telling you to eat. Now, that doesn't mean eat Cheetos. And God bless my friend Melanie for reminding me that when I'd shared that I had really loosened the reins on diet, and she's like, I know that still means your diet is still better than a lot of typical Americans. And I was like, it really is, but it has taken me so much time to get to this point. This is why it's important to stop where you are sometimes when we get frustrated and consider where we've come. If you're on a long journey and you're walking down this road and you just are so focused on where you want to go, and you forget to look up and see how far you've come. I look back on my background of being 90 pounds and looking in the mirror and having a really horrible case of body dysmorphia and thinking that I was too fat and hating my body and hating myself and the things that did. And, that sparked a really unhealthy relationship with food and exercise, and looking at that in terms of, well, if I eat this, I'm going to have to go do this. If I, this exercise anorexia is what they call it, or exercise bulimia, where you eat really, really unhealthy and then you purge by exercising in an inordinate amount of time to burn the calories. And while I think it's important, if you have had a lot of indulgences, to make sure that you're exercising, I think it's very unhealthy to look at it in those terms, that it's like you're penalizing yourself for enjoying your life, and that's not healthy, and you can't live that way. And so anyway, back to what I was saying, if you're on this journey, sometimes you have to step up and you have to turn around and you have to look back to where you've come from and to where I've come from where I've come from to where I am now. It has taken years to get to this point. It has been taking years to undo the psychological damage that I caused myself with these unhealthy patterns with eating and exercise. And, I'm in such a good place, and I've set in my mind that I want to do a competition next year, and I'm going to do a competition because the way that my brain works is if I get an idea, I'm going to work at it until I achieve it. And, while I look at my diet sometimes, especially right now, in terms of a competition diet, it's not a competition diet at this point in time. It's, I have cut myself some slack to actually live my life because nobody's holding a gun to my head telling me to do those things. I have goals and I will work at those goals, but sometimes we have to hit a pause button and just kind of live our lives. So that's where I am right now, that I'm still eating very healthy foods. I eat, I'll do a day where I'll tell you guys everything that I eat, so maybe it'll give you some ideas. It's very boring. But the foods that I eat are very, they're good for you. It's fish and vegetables and complex carbohydrates and good fats, basically, and a lot of water. That's basically it. But I've kind of hit a pause button, and you got to do that sometimes. You need to put a pause button and then reset so that you can push forward, because there's a lot of energy that can come from that. So that's where I'm at right now. If you're there right now, don't give yourself any grief. Maybe Greek yogurt. That's delicious. But take a beat, see where you are, see where you've come from, and then give yourself a pat on the back. That's my advice for today. I hope y'all are doing great. Have a fantastic day. We're almost through with the week. You can do it. Push through. Peace and love.